Hello and welcome back, and we're continuing our overview of the software from the NAS providers. We're focusing a lot today on surveillance. We've already done a video just before this, well I have anyway, comparing Asustor's ADM platform for surveillance using Surveillance Center and comparing it against QNAP's QVR Pro software. Today we want to move to what I would describe as the best surveillance software out there for NAS. I want to talk about Surveillance Station 8.2 from Synology. We're going to see how the surveillance software runs on both of these platforms and see which one's right for you. Remember, we're going to try our best, and by us I mean me, not to say which one's better, because what might perceive to be better to me might not be better for you, and moreover, you might not want certain features that are available in one, whereas you might want features that are in another. So do bear that in mind when watching this video. Further disclaimers should be that 1, because I'm using capture recording software and OBS to record what's going on here on screen, there will be certain lag factors at times, and of course frames per second drops, unfortunately, because we are using two browsers here based on NAS with their graphical user interfaces. We're using screen capture software, and we have got cameras running into client software from both of these browser based NASs. So that means that we are going to see GPU and performance dips quite a lot, and I do apologise for that. I'm hoping to get the capture card sorted very soon. Next thing, probably worth highlighting, I have tried to get multiple cameras for this video. I could have waited a few weeks until my original Reolink cameras were back for another video, but rather than get you guys to wait much longer for that, I thought I'd get this video up and running with the one available camera I've got at the moment, the Reolink C2 Pro. This is also, well, was supposed to be coupled with the QNAP camera using the USB. For those that aren't aware, if you use a QNAP NAS, you can attach USB web cameras to a QNAP NAS and turn them into surveillance cameras in their surveillance software, which is pretty handy. And so right now I've got a QNAP NAS running here in the background with a USB camera installed inside. There it is there. And this camera, right now, it's recording from this USB and making it IP accessible. Sadly, it has not been picked up by the other NASs in the local area network, which is a real shame. So this video will be using just a one IP camera. So I apologise for that in advance. And of course, the noise in the background is because I've got 5 NASs surrounding me right now, and notwithstanding all the CO2 now in July that are slowly eking me away, but also there is the noise. So I apologise for that. But that's enough talking and waffling. Let's get on with this video. Now, regardless of which one of these two you go for, you will have a surveillance platform that can run multiple cameras. Both of these NAS providers have their own surveillance software. Surveillance Center from Asustor and from Synology Surveillance Station. Both of them can support thousands of cameras over the network and indeed over the internet when set up correctly. Both of them support things like motion triggers, light triggers, and loads of features and functionality of more professional enterprise-grade cameras from companies like Axis, as well as lower-end cameras, again like Hikvision, Edimax, and of course what I think is the ever-reliable Reolink. If you don't know about them, just type Reolink NAS, you'll find my videos. But let's go to the Asustor one, because although Asustor is the more affordable of these two, their surveillance software is pretty damn good. There's no denying it. When you do click on their icon on their desktop here, it will open up a little tab and invite you to install their client software. This is software for PC or Mac systems. This is what it looks like, and this allows you to access multiple cameras at once via a single control deck. You can control pan, tilt, zoom with these cameras. Right now in the background we've got my Reolink here. I've just waved my hand at the camera, so you're probably going to see a slight delay there during the recording, but you can change the number of cameras that are visible on screen at any given time. You can maximize and minimize individual cameras throughout the layout, take individual screenshots of what's on screen and save it locally to your machine, time-stamped. You can do individual videos and change the recording layout and what gets recorded and when with schedules. You can sequence individual videos and folders and actually play back some old footage simultaneously while recording, which is always helpful. Mute cameras when needed. Create e-maps. If you've got digital maps of your physical environment, you can then upload them to the surveillance software, Surveillance Center, and then say where the cameras are to give you a graphical user interface to flick between the cameras in that environment, and of course change the settings that we'll go through in just a moment. Also, you can control cameras individually if they support pan tilt zoom. That is to say, a camera that it has a rotational base that allows you to move the camera like so. So let's rotate the camera to the left. Well, it's left, who knows? So that camera is now going to rotate a little bit there from the button that I've just clicked, and it will carry that there. On top of that, remember there is a slight delay there. On top of that, we can zoom in as well. So we'll zoom in a little bit. That camera's going to start moving. I can hear it motoring next to me. So in a second, you should see it moving there on the physical screen. There we go, it's moving ever so slightly. I'm not doing it too heavy a push. Each individual camera has its own bespoke options there, so we can zoom in on certain sections of the screen if we so choose, enable the camera's individual sound settings, and stop and start recordings manually if we choose. Likewise, we can go into the individual settings of each camera, so every camera can have its own recording pattern, its own alert system, and all of those different options that are incredibly important, as well as each camera having patrols and profiles that you can flick between, so you need the cameras to act in a certain way in a customized whenever I need it fashion. And these patrol patterns and profiles can be set up very easily indeed. Now, the playback section is where all your recordings will live, and from here you can go through all of the recordings you've made, and if you set up customized alerts that are based on motion or sound, or depending on the level of quality of the camera you're using, different alerts are available. And from here you can flick between different calendar views, speed up or slow down camera footage when you're scanning through it, and on top of that, different alerts that get triggered will leave a mark on a little line on the interface here to let you know that an event transpired at this point in the recording. On top of that, you can export and import pre-existing footage that you might have if you're upgrading an existing system, and Smart Search will allow you to sequence only the notifications and alerts that you've created. Now in the settings menu, this is where things are a little bit more interesting. You've got a control deck here that allows you to do a number of things. You can quick start for beginners that allow you to add a bunch of cameras very, very easily, with all the settings being simplified in a very big way. Camera allows you to add multiple cameras over time and scan your local area network for cameras. So for example, there is that Reolink C1 Pro that we're using right now, and of course we can edit all the features and functionality of what it's doing, and it even lets you know how much footage is being used. Likewise, you can even click on a camera and get the direct interface of that camera, but because I've not keyed in the login details here, it's not going to display in the browser in that way. Let's go back to what we're doing. Now, if we want to add a camera, we literally just click add, and it will scan our local area network either in an easy or more customizable way, and it will search for cameras that are around. These cameras, once they're found, will add to your existing number of cameras and then add to that control deck of cameras, each with their own bespoke patrols, controls, alerts and profile if you so choose. Now there is one thing we should really touch on, and this applies to both Asustor and to Synology, and indeed every NAS brand out there. That is the fact that you need licenses. Now the Asustor NASs either arrive with 2 or 4 camera licenses, and that means you can use between 2 and 4 cameras depending on the Asustor NAS you buy straight away off the bat. After that, they've worked out, like most NAS brands, that the people who are using these for more than that many cameras are using them for an enterprise means. 2 to 4 cameras is good enough for the home, but for a business, you're going to need more cameras than that, outside, inside, certain areas of the building. And those users, they expect to pay to subsidise the development of the software, therefore camera licenses exist. I go into far more detail in another video that I recommend you check out, but you get 2 to 4 licenses, and you can of course buy more licenses as you see fit. You've got a notification panel that allows you to view all notifications that have occurred, and event action rules where you can assign those different actions that happen on screen depending on the variable number of alert functions that your camera supports. to be configured here. Maps, as mentioned earlier, is where you upload a blueprint of your local area environment, that is the physical environment, and assign cameras in a graphical interface. And privilege allows you to assign different security privileges of access and control to different users of the NAS. There's loads more options here, from other storage options of pre-existing storage to creating brand new storage arrays, content management systems, and more. And you can go into far more, more bespoke settings and levels here, where you can really break things down to the port level. And as far as surveillance software goes, we can look at the logs panel here. So everything that's happened so far is then logged. And again, if you don't want to enable alerts, so you get a mobile phone notification, an email notification or more to tell you that something's happening on the camera, you just consult the logs, and it will tell you everything you need, everything from individual logins to individual user activity to know that if someone's fiddling with the cameras, or general event logs from those cameras. It is a very, very good piece of software. Now, maybe it's already gone live, I hope it has, but much like the Asustor surveillance software versus the QNAP software, the QBR Pro that I did previously, now we're comparing against the Synology software. There's one thing I have to say straight off the bat. The Synology software can do everything the Asustor software can do. Okay, so the Asustor software comes in a far more affordable NAS. The hardware is very, very good as well, but there's no denying it that the Synology surveillance software doesn't just do everything the Asustor software can do, everything I've said so far, in fact, but it does even more. Surveillance Station 8.2, the current version, once you open it up, the application is included with your NAS. It's available here. Once you open that, it opens a brand new tab, and this is a complete user interface. Now, the more astute will notice this is in the web browser. We haven't had to open a separate client app. Although there is a client app available, you can do everything in Synology Surveillance Station app in the web browser. That is Chrome, even Firefox, and I'm not sure about IE, but everything can be done here. You can add even more apps and functionality for the environment you work in, to increase the number of cameras that are supported, device integration, even individual applications that apply to different cameras can be installed. There's even links to the mobile applications, because although there is a camera application from Asustor, Synology feature multiple camera apps. Now, DS Cam is kind of the main one, where you can view all your cameras from there. But Live Cam and another one that we're going to look at in a second really are impressive. There's the PC utilities, and if you click here, these will download to your local machine, but for now we're just going to use the web interface. On top of that, the ability to do live streaming of cameras is very interesting. Maybe you need to share camera footage very quickly, maybe it's an event, maybe it's a launch, an opening, or something negative. Maybe you want to send recordings of what's happening right now to the police. This is a very easy way to do it. There's even app support for control systems, USB, IP speakers, security door security systems, and more, as well as a whole dedicated selection of stuff for Axis Enterprise cameras. Now, that's just add-ons. They're all free and included with your NAS. The fact that the whole surveillance platform runs in the web browser is a big, big deal, because although the client application will give you a lot of control for all NAS brands, there's no denying that the ability to use the web browser makes things a hell of a lot easier, and it manages to do it and still be very quick at the same time. So, for example, in the IP camera area, you can look at the cameras you've assigned. We've got the Reolink C2 Pro, as discussed earlier on, being utilized right now. On top of that, you've got that USB camera connected to the QNAP that's being utilized. Unfortunately, we can't access at this time. On top of that, we've got a timeline manager and a live view, which we're going to go into now. So right now, we can see that Reolink camera that we've discussed. And again, we have the same level of control as we had on the Asustor, but just much better. For example, we can use general controls here on screen to navigate with the camera. We can do all the things, all the zoom and all the rest of it. But one thing you can also do is literally drag the camera to move. You can drag on screen, and again there will be that delay as mentioned. I'll show you, I'll put my hand up now just to show you what the delay is. And again, that's nothing to do with the Synology. There's a delay there of about 3 seconds, but you can literally drag the cameras to wherever you want them to go. And that camera will then move up accordingly as you see fit. So let's bring that down a bit, bring it back down to me, wave at the camera. And the same thing goes for zoom. You can choose to use optical zoom or digital zoom. And right now it's going to do a mega zoom. And the response time is very, very good indeed. Let's zoom that out there. Now there's stuff like alerts. With alerts you can do all kinds of stuff where you can, if you've got a camera like this one that has audio alerts, you can both have audio in and out at the same time thanks to that support of both cameras and IP speakers. Streaming profiles allow you to say where and how you want the recordings made and where to. Patrol patterns, as discussed, can be uploaded or create your own very, very easily. On top of that, audio output and digital output are always handy, two ways to make sure your footage is very accessible to the people you need to access it. Now on the timeline you can look at all the recordings that have been made, and from here, much like the Asustor one, you've got those coloured alerts, but it sequences and goes through them a hell of a lot quicker. For example, I'm waving at the camera right now. It is 1:05 PM, and as you can see, the clock there is from an hour ago. And you can do this while simultaneously looking at live feeds. So one cool little feature here that I absolutely love is when you look at the live feed of the cameras, if I had multiple cameras, I can then drag and drop other cameras into the other windows. So say for example, I want to, let's minimize that. You can set it up by adding the same camera to 3 different screens if you so choose. Or if I had multiple cameras operating at once here, you can also go back to the past. You can look at footage here, so instant playback will then show the alerts from earlier. These are all the ones from earlier on. And on top of that, we can then create a more bespoke panel here that does manual recording, streaming settings, and just generally more options are open to us here, and also the ability to play back video in these windows at exactly the same time as we're watching cameras means that we've got a true control deck where we can mix and match there on screen, something that the client Asustor app doesn't provide. Now, like the Asustor app, we have loads of sections and settings with regards to actions, rules, patrols, and more. All of those options are readily available. And in fact, the last thing I want to talk about is 3 things, technically. 1, home mode. Home mode is a great feature I don't talk about enough on this channel, largely because it's very hard to get the whole thing set up. Keep meaning to make a video about it. Home mode requires you to use your mobile phone and the DS Cam app. What you do is once you install that application, you make sure your phone and the NAS are on the same network. Once you've got it set up and you've enabled home mode, all the cameras in your home can be set that they are not recording when you're in the home. As long as your phone is on the network, it knows you're in the house because your phone's in your pocket. Then it won't record. However, if you leave the house far enough, maybe 8 to 10 meters, and you break that internet connection, that network connection with your home, the surveillance Synology will know that you've left the home because your phone in home mode has left the network. Then all the cameras start recording. And this cool little alert feature that saves you from ever have to worry about the cameras recording you in your own home and saves you from forgetting to turn the cameras on when you leave is fantastic and only available with Synology. And I keep meaning to make a video on this software, but the setup for it is just very time consuming, and I will get around to it one day. The other 2 things are the ones I talked about earlier. Live cam and the YouTube streaming. This is a video, and again, I hope this is going to work in the capture recording software, but there's no guaranteeing. There's a video I did a little while ago. I'm watching my own video here. I could have just superimposed it over the top. I didn't get time. This is turning my mobile phone into a camera that's live streaming. So I was able to live stream to Surveillance Station and therefore onto YouTube. Another option is using live cam, where your phone turns into a webcam that Surveillance Station pick up. So again, some lovely options there, and I know I'm watching my own video here and it's a bit loserish, but it's great that your phone can become a camera within Surveillance Station. As you can see, there's my phone and there's Surveillance Station. It really is that straightforward. And it's features and functionality like that that are why Synology Surveillance Platform for me is still the best NAS software out there for surveillance. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. They only include 2 camera licenses as standard. It does require quite a powerful NAS to take advantage of these features, and I'm trying my best not to focus on hardware here, because different NASs from Asustor or Synology give different hardware. That said, the price of the average Asustor is considerably lower. The hardware of the average Asustor is better than Synology in terms of CPU, memory and HDMI output. And indeed, the HDMI output on the Asustor allows you to create a standalone surveillance platform. There are loads of reasons to go for it, but there's no denying that in my eyes, key there, only my own, I think the Synology platform is better. It may not be that way for you, because there's a hell of a lot of bells and whistles that you may never use. Maybe you want to use only a client software and not a browser software because of the security implications of people being able to access your NAS and the surveillance via a web browser. Personally, I think there's enough security to nullify that, but you never know. But this has been Surveillance Center for the Asustor versus Surveillance Station for Synology NAS. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. Do let me know in the comments what you think. These things are always useful, and I will be covering more subjects of surveillance with the other brands. Coming up next, for me anyway, and we'll be looking at HDMI output on the Asustor Nimbustor NAS compared with QNAP's NAS platform. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Don't forget to click like and subscribe and help me keep making these videos for you. Cheerio.